Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. Today, I'm super excited. We've been waiting a long time to get Dr. Richard Evangelista on the podcast. Richard, you and I were introduced via a mutual friend who we've had on the podcast as well, Jake Poole. I think that's how you say Jake's last name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, P-U-H-L. Anyway, and he's the CEO of the DEO group, and I just remember hearing him talk about you and literally being like this urban legend guy who had created this epic practice by him, epic practices, number of practices, and as a single practitioner. And I was like, "There's no way." I was like, "You got to let me talk to him." So anyway, he connected us. Went out and saw your summit, listened to your methodology, and was just ultra impressed by you as a human and just a practitioner of business of dentistry. So anyway, Craig and I are excited. I know you personally. Craig hasn't met you obviously in person, but I talk about you all the time, being that, you know, I always talk about kind of the 4-minute mile, the metaphorical 4-minute mile in dentistry. And once someone does it one time, then it's like, oh, all of a sudden now everyone can do this 4-minute mile. Not everyone. But I envision guys like you are that metaphorical 4-minute mile dentist that like, oh shit, I can do this too. And I think it's just cool. So you're inspiring for our profession. You have 44 practices to date. Dr. Evangelista is in the San Francisco Bay Area, so most of your practices are centered around there. But 44 practices, and
that's nuts.
And no private equity money, right?
That's
so this
awesome.
is not private equity backed. This is just his skin in the game, rolling the ball forward and just doubling, tripling down on what he knows how to do best. So Richard, thank you and welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to unpack this journey a little bit, and let's go from there, man. I know you've done this hundreds of times, and probably for people kind of explaining like your journey, but when did you graduate dental school? Let's just give some context.
Graduated in 2000.
Yes, you're a little older than me. Phew, thank God. You know, sometimes when these guys come on, they're like, "Yeah, I graduated in like 2012," and like I already have. I'm like,
exactly. I had my 35th practice.
Yeah.
7th month in out of school.
All right, so 2000. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Graduated 2000. Bought my first practice in 2004-ish, like the beginning of 4, end of 3, and I started going from there. I never really wanted to be in multiple practices, but you know, I was pretty successful in my first one. Some opportunities came around, and it was like within 6 months, I was already at my second practice.
You're 6. Oh, so did you do a Denovo or did you acquire one? I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry.
I acquired my first practice.
Acquired your first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
when you did the second one, sorry, Richard, did you were you working as a sole dentist in both at that point, or did you leave someone behind you at the first one?
Question.
No, the first one was an actual acquisition, and then I was working that alone. And then the next one was an actual partnership in opening up a Denovo.
Interesting.
So
partner with another dentist that could actually operate while you're not there.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that a lot of dentists do, which is funny, is they don't scale their dentists. They open 3 practices and they're just still solo practitioners. I always find that interesting. So, sorry, I just want to.
Yeah. I mean, there's always difficulties in each one. I mean, depending on what you're trying to do. But actually, within that next year, I did another acquisition and another Denovo, like the beginning of the next year, and then at the end of the next year, I did another acquisition.
So you're 2 years out, 4 offices, correct?
Somewhere in there.
Wow.
So you say you didn't set out with this mindset, like it just kind of happened fortuitously, right? Like you just said, "Oh, cool," and it was just the path you started going down. But like, did you always envision yourself just opening a practice and prepping 35 years and retiring, kind of thing, or did you have some kind of inkling in your head that this would be your path?
Nah. So you heard my story from the beginning, and when I started at like an HMO practice, like a managed care practice. And unfortunately, when I started that managed care practice, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just trying to put as many patients in. They threw me as a dentist in there, and I was a go-getter. I was kind of like a dental geek. I was just like, give me as much as you can give me, and I'll take as much as I can take. And I was seeing 30 to 35 patients a day. It was a lot. And, there are times where other docs wouldn't even show up, and then we'd have more than 30 patients. So I'd be doing 5-minute cleanings. We were laughing about this actually yesterday because I remember doing 10-minute 4 quad root planings.
Yeah. It wasn't good, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that.
It probably wasn't passing your boards. Just going to.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
But literally, I would be working 4 chairs, 1 assistant per hour.
That is hair on fire. That is the term, hair on fire, for sure. Like you were rolling with it, you know. But it taught you. I remember hearing some of your production, and it taught you how to be a monster producer once you even got out of that environment, maybe even into your fee for service and BPO practices. Like you have the chops to back up the fact that you weren't just a business operator. Like you had the chop. I remember you saying you had used to do over 200 a month.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, it's from a production standpoint, that's monster production. So,
but it just goes to show you that your first foray into dentistry, into private practice outside of school really shapes who you are. So like that's, you know, had you just gone in and interned with Hornbrook, you would have, you know,
no, I'm not doing that case. No, I'm not doing that case either.
Well, you know what I mean? If you had interned with a really high-end fee-for-service practice and the volume was low in comprehensive dentistry, you probably wouldn't necessarily be where you are right now. So it just goes to show it's such a myriad of different.
The silver lining of the HMO, yeah, that experience, 100%.
You decide that when you get out, what you decide that you're going to take out of where you work. Most people would quit, and that's what happened in that practice. A lot of people would quit. And then I was just saying, you know, I knew I was going to open my own practice. I was like, I need to get as much experience as I can. And I said, just stack it on and I'll make it work. And if you run 4 chairs and 3 restorative and 1 cleaning, when you get into fee-for-service dentistry, you're sitting on your ass all day. So it's like nothing to do.
And that drives dentists batty, by the way. I always talk about this idea that dentists have 2 needs. They have a need to make money as one need, but they have a separate and totally independent need to be busy. And there are many dentists, and I've met them over.
They're not correlated.
They're not correlated. So you can have a guy, I've had people that worked with me that, you know, make a lot of money, but they have a lot of free time, and that drives them batty. So they say, well, geez, if I sit on my hands half the time and I'm making 300 grand a year, imagine if I didn't sit on my hands at all, I could be making 6 and 9, and they'll leave and they'll make 250 working 6 days a week. But they're happy.
The big trap in dentistry is opening your second practice. Everyone thinks, hey, I'm going to open my second practice. I'm going to do double the revenue I make now, and I'm going to have 2 practices. I'll get an associate to work. And then they realize by the time they're done that they're just making the same money and working twice as much.
Twice as hard. There's total dilution. They diluted this all for sure.
It's just so funny. There's an emotional need, and then there's the logical. We never really know how we're doing that, because goes to point to show that you have to pay attention to your numbers and mitigate your psychology with the numbers.
So I'm sure you get this. You get this probably more than we do. Even is like, hey, I want to be the multiple practice owner. I get this from a lot of young dentists, and I make them understand, like I pump the brakes a little bit and say, like, that's great, but like, is that your narrative? Is that really what you want to do? Is that just what you've been told because you're hearing podcasts and the takeover of corporate dentistry and all this stuff, right? And so,
that's the reason for my seminar. You know, I never went out saying I'm going to like start doing seminars and start talking about it, but I couldn't handle all the fucking bullshit that's been out. You know, you get all these guys speaking about how to build a company, and none of them have ever done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hallelujah, man.
Struggle every day and watch these guys tell me how I'm supposed to be doing it. It got so irritating to me that I was like, no way. I got to get out there and I'll tell you how to build it. But what you guys are teaching, that's not building nothing.
Yeah, it's
and that's pervasive, not just in that, but it's consultants. It's sometimes it's just pervasive in the dental industry. Craig and I joke.
It's like taking financial coaching from a guy that doesn't have any money.
Yeah, it's like you don't have the chops to teach me. Like, how can you be teaching me? Like, you've never been in the trench, like, or whatever it was. Like, yeah. So I remember you telling me that when we first got on the phone before we had met in person, you kind of talking like you just did, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I know, I just loved it. I loved it too. You just got so excited when you're just talking.
Yeah, it's tough to hear when you're sitting there struggling, but these guys have the secrets. What do they have the secrets to? You know, and then you sit here, you're building your own thing, you're struggling every day, and then you have to hear them. I mean, it's
so you've got obviously a lot of successes under your belt. Can you talk about some of the pain points in your path, like that you said, like, you know, because I think it's interesting to identify where guys like yourself hit massive roadblocks and even contemplated, like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to turn around and go back to being safe. Because
I'd love
you've
to
been
know
living on the edge obviously living on the edge, because you're, you know, you've gotten past the barriers of traditional lending. You know, I remember you talking a lot about that, meaning that, you know, there's, for those dentists who haven't pushed the limits on how much they can borrow, like once you get to a certain level, the bank will say, no, thanks, we're not lending you anymore. So you found a hack over that. I'm rambling, but I want to hear, I want to hear your sunshine, but I also want to hear about your rainy days as well.
Can we, Pete, can we put that in the context of the story? Because I'm really excited about year 2 for practices. Can you take us through in the context of the chronology of the story? Because I think the story is really compelling, if you don't mind.
Please.
Sure. When I started, you know, I had my first practice. I was learning how to produce. You know, I had the same growing pains that anyone else did. Half my patients left, and they left because the owner left. Mm-hmm. There was a very, you know, popular person. I get in there, I have the biggest ego. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm telling everybody they need all this work, and they're like, who the hell are you? And you learn that over time. But the good thing is I've learned how to produce back in the day. Although I lost half my patients, I'm still doing double the production.
Yes, that's fine.
It's fine. I'm like, okay, I'll lose them, but I'll get some people back. But, you know, it was painful when I was seeing 30 patients. And I see some of my brothers, they were like, yeah, I'm working in a practice. I'm getting burnt out. My back's hurting. I'm a young guy. I'm not going to practice like this anymore. And so I started helping them out. And so it almost like my teaching career started as soon as I bought my practice. So I'm like, hey, let me show you how to do this, because now I'm seeing 4 patients and I'm making triple the money. And so I was like, hey, we got to get out of there. Let me help you, you know, open a practice. Let me show you how to make it productive. And so I'm taking guys who were literally making $100,000 a year as an associate to, next thing you know, they're doing $500,000 a year take home, you know, out of their own practice. What? And so I would basically get these guys, and either they become a partner or they're just my buddies. And then after a while, I'm like, no, I just might as well just open it myself and drop you guys in here, and I'll pay you way more than you are as an associate. And that just became my plan. I was like, I'm going to create the absolute best dentist in the country. I'm going to hire and recruit them. And I had this dream of building the, you know, like the best dental company in the world.
Can you define that? Because you're lit up right now. I could feel your energy. So tell me what that felt like. What was that? So that best dental company, like, give me what that was all about. Because your enthusiasm is making me curious. What did it look like at that point?
I mean, I knew. I mean, some people do have like a gift of selling, a gift of talking to people, right? I always felt like I had a really good rapport with patients, and so. That on top of how much CE I used to do. I don't know about kids today. None of them want to go to CE anymore unless it's free. You know, back in the day, I took every dollar and threw it into CE. I always tell the story. Do you remember when you were learning how to do implants? Implant course for me, Implant 101 was like $15,000. Mm-hmm. Now Implant 101 is free.
Yeah, exactly.
And these guys, they don't have to do nothing, and it's all given to them for free. But back then, I was like, you know, I'm going to take every course. If GPs weren't doing it, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to be the oral surgeon. I'm going to be the orthodontist. I took 2-year Academy of GP Ortho.
Wow.
Every implant course you can think of. I was just like the
So for how long were you a CE junkie to like, F it, I'm going to wind up being entrepreneurial dentist? When did you stop doing production, physical production?
Well, I didn't make physical production right around, hold on, let me turn this light on.
Yeah,
okay.
By the way, that's a badass lion behind you.
5 years ago.
Sorry, that's a badass lion behind you. I had to just call that out for those that are watching and just listening. He's got a dominant lion over his head, which is very intimidating. Next time I'm going to have like a T-Rex. Just to one-up you.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah, it does. And it's intimidating the shit out of Pete and I. By the way. I'm like in my seat, like getting really low. Got a freaking lion.
I love it.
Okay, so go ahead. So only stopped production 5 years ago, correct?
I only stopped production 5 years ago because I guess in my heart, I've always wanted to be like a teacher, and I wanted to teach guys how to be, you know, there's no joy into when you have an associate, someone works under you and it finally clicks, right? Like they get out of their own fears, it finally clicks, they have the skills to be like a great dentist, and then they're producing literally triple overnight. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's my joy. But that joy went away over time.
Why?
Let me tell you why. Get to about 6 to 8 practices. For me, it was six practices. I think for other people, it would be like 2 or 3, but I was able to hold it down to about 6. At 6 practices, you don't know people that you're hiring. Sometimes the dentists don't really see you at all. You're not able to mentor them on a one-on-one basis. And that's when all the bullshit starts. That's when people start talking about you, even though you've never met them. They start to make excuses. I could give a whole lecture on associates, because associates is everyone's pain. But the reason why it's a pain is because it's very difficult for you to understand what goes on in the associate's head. It's funny because I deal with it on a daily basis. Every time I get a new associate, you tell them everything to do. You give them all the verbiage. You give them all the scripts. You give them how to walk into a room. But the moment they sit in front of a patient, shit turns blank. And they're just like, it's like they're taking a test that they studied all night for. And the moment that they're right at the test, they don't remember one thing. And it's crazy. That's where it turned into a change, because you had to go from the clinical teacher who got excited about teaching guys to be the absolute best to now you're just managing the business side of it.
So how did you, that was a pain point. So would that force you to hire a C-suite essentially, right? Like a corporate suite, okay, of people. And did that, I'm kind of taking on your story, but did that start helping to solve some of your problems?
So wait, before you answer that, that's pain point number 1, right? Big pain point number 1. Okay. So fill me in on what life is like for you at 6 practices. What you said people were talking, like, tell me what was the feeling? Were you starting to hate what you were doing? Were you like, should I go back to where I was or have to blast forward? You knew you couldn't stay. So tell me what you're thinking.
I think throughout the process, you're always like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Oh, all of us are.
You're always like, well, does this make sense? But when I had 6 practices, it was still very manageable for me because I'm a super producer. So they would just stack my schedule. I'd work 4 days a week and I would just tear it up. I mean, I was probably take home around $2 million a year.
So what were you producing?
Well, I would say all the associates kind of took care of the overhead, and everything I did, probably 50% of it would go to my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're producing like 3-4 million a year.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're just producing your way out of any problem.
Exactly. And so if I had an associate that I didn't like, I was like, get the hell out of here then.
I'll do it. Watch me, Yeah.
Remember, I'm used to working 4 chairs, so
Jeez.
it was pretty easy.
And that's pretty intimidating environment to come into, knowing that, the person who's hiring you has the chops and can jump in, and, like that is pretty intimidating. I can only imagine.
So wait, so you're taking home $2 million a year. So what has you and how long ago was this?
This is about 5 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago.
Okay, so 2012. What has you say, oh no, this is not good enough. I need to make more money. I need to work. Like, because a lot of people there's a financial thermostat that most people have. Yeah. Either your air conditioning or your heat kicks on when you're getting too poor, and the AC kicks on when you're getting too rich. Yeah. So, I mean, did you grow up affluent? Did you grow up?
I grew up poor.
Yeah.
I grew up just like everyone else. I had loans, I had everything. I had to struggle to get, what I want. But for some reason, the money, because I produced so much, I never really worried about money. Mm-hmm. So for me, I didn't care if every dollar went back into the company. I just wanted to see how far I could take myself personally.
Got it.
So I pushed myself past the limits that I would ever recommend to anyone.
I think all 3 of us can say that at some point.
Yeah. So you just decide on in your mind, you're like, I'll never lose. Like, I can't lose. So every decision you make, you just know is the right decision for you. So I just said, fuck it.
Where did that belief come from, Richard? Where did you get that belief from?
I have no idea.
Because that's really fucking aberrant, by the way.
Yeah,
they say an entrepreneur has, they're overzealous and they have no idea the odds stacked against them. There's this hyper, but where does that come from? Is that something that you had like in dental school as well?
Probably not. I mean, maybe reading, maybe
it's just a DNA thing sometimes,
thing, maybe.
What were the books that you were reading, just so we could put in the show notes? Like, what are the stuff that shaped your life? Was there any book in particular?
I don't know. I mean, I've done a lot of the Tony Robbins stuff like you guys. That helped. I mean, some other stuff, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah,
No,
I'm hearing that thinking.
yeah, you know, the same book that everybody else reads.
No, not too many people read that shit, actually. I
Really?
know they're popular amongst the
You know,
entrepreneurs.
I'm identifying a theme though a little bit. I'm gonna jump in here just because I wrote down a couple of things that I was taking notes. And really, what you said was all of your in the beginning, all of your discretionary dollars went into yourself,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that is so true. So you found your superpower, Richard, and then you just doubled down and tripled down,
Yeah.
you know, and then you found your other, and then once you got to scale, once that was checked off, and you're like, all right, I've taken that far, then your discretionary dollars went back into your business. And Craig and I always joke about like the dentist who says like, cool, I'm going to put this in my 401k or my, you know, I'm going to go open an ice cream shop or invest in a Subway or, you know, something they have no expertise in their lane, but you
Well,
just kept doubling down. And I love that because I think that's kind of what I do. You stayed in control of your dollars because you knew that you couldn't fail. If you depended on you, you wouldn't fail because you're going to hustle your way out of any problem.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
It's
That's what I'm
funny that
picking
you
up
say
here.
that you're in control of your dollars. I really think you're out of control because what you're doing is you're putting every dollar you have back into your company. And I still do it today.
But you're control, meaning you're responsible for that. You can't blame the stock market. You can't blame the economy. You can't blame, you know, you can't blame a fire of a building that you invest. You can't blame anything other than you just didn't perform, right? You didn't, it falls on you. You have extreme accountability. And that's what I see in a lot of leaders sometimes is that they want that extreme accountability. They want things to fall on their shoulders because they want to rise up.
Yeah. There's an ownership mentality for people.
Yeah. And so when I see superstars like yourself, I see this theme going on. It was first, invest in yourself. And second, put it in something that's in your ecosystem that you're in control of.
But then what has you say, like, you know, I've got to make more money you know, taking
I don't
home.
think it's the money to him. He just said that. I think it's a scorecard just for you because you're playing the game.
So, okay. So what pushed you to advance the playing field? So you have 6 practices, you're running around producing in all of them. What's the next iteration? What was the next fire in your belly? What was the next level? How did that go?
I would say, you know, I started seeing my dream of creating like the absolute best dentist in the country start going away. Because I'll tell you that only one of every 100 dentists are actually really great. And for me to say I'm going to find 5, 6, 7 great dentists in my area, it just didn't work out for me. I tried. I went through dentist after dentist trying to find the right personality, the right skill. And I started to see that, you know, I came up to the realization that not all dentists are good.
Yeah.
And that even that guy over here who's making $2 million out of his practice is a shitty clinician. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? If I'm going to still push, I have to push now on a business level, right? Because now that you're not working a practice, how much are you taking out of it? Now, those private equity guys might fantasize about this 25% they take home out of a practice, but we don't see that.
So,
oh, that's awesome. I'm so happy you said that, by the way, because there's so much pressure. And the mantra push.
We're going to get to the PE talk too for a second. No, not yet, because I want to ask.
I just like the fact that he said that 25%. You know, you're going to be counting cotton rolls and shit like that, and at a certain point, you know. Okay. Cool.
So, would you say that like it seems like the associates have been a pain point? So, would you say that's been one of the impediments to your growth? Obviously, you've had amazing growth, but has that been the impediment? Is thinking that all dentists were kind of created equal, if you will, and you could mold them into excellent dentists, and you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Did you say that was a big impediment?
That was my first real pain point. Okay. Everything else to me was easy.
Okay.
But you could have done it, and you could have done it at a certain level. There was, you know, maybe 6, 8 dentists you could handle.
Yeah.
But to grow bigger, you couldn't get more than that, or it was this idea of like, either to do it at 100% quality, I'll only be able to grow this big, so I have to change the model and make it different. I'm just trying to get into your head on that.
It wasn't really changing the quality. It was just changing from a good dentist to the absolute best. Sometimes now, I'm not looking for that 1% dentist. I'm looking for someone who's decent or above average, right? That 1% of dentists, it's just, you can't find that, or they're not going to work for you.
So what's the X factor you have obviously a myriad of dentists working for you. What would you say is the X factor between a amazing producing dentist and mediocre or average?
Boy, you're going to get into a whole different topic here. I mean, you could go on for hours on this, but if I were to sum it all up, I would say dentists all have egos. And understanding those egos and being able to break through that ego, and for a dentist to say everything that's happening is my fault, is almost the hardest thing in my company. Because a dentist never wants to think that they're making a mistake. They never want to say it's their fault. It's always, I don't have enough patients, or I don't believe in the way that you treatment plan, or, you know, my front office can't close treatment. It's always an excuse for them. But
So the ones without egos are the highest performers? Is that kind of, is that, I want to.
Ones that understand that they have egos and they're able to put those away and say, I'm going to grow and take instruction and say, if everything is my fault, right? We always talk about accountability.
Ownership, yeah.
But it's hard to teach ownership to an associate, right?
Well, ownership just depends on the context, right? Ownership of a practice versus ownership of your own world that you're living in, meaning your clinical care, you know, your
results, owning your results is what I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
you get a dentist, right? And you can put 5 dentists in front of a patient and all 5 of them have different diagnoses. But usually the one who diagnoses the most is probably the one who's correct, right? But that one who diagnosed the least thinks the one who diagnosed the most is the worst dentist in the world.
Right.
Right.
You must be overtreating. You must be overtreating.
And there's such a big there's so much self-esteem in it too. You know, when you're presenting a case, I think dentists oftentimes go to the default of a technical jargon. All a patient wants you to do is look in their eyes, and they're trying to assess if you believe in yourself. And if you don't have the self-esteem to tell them the fee and what they need, that's, I think, the X factor too. I have a dentist that works in my practice. His English isn't even that great, but he's a phenomenal dentist. And when he tells people what they need, they don't even understand him. And they're like, I don't know what he said, but I love him. And his results are awesome. And like, we have patients that are like, I only want my free cleaning. I have insurance. And they go to him and he's like, this is what you really need. And blah, 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 blah. And he goes through all this stuff. And then like, I don't even know what he said, but I'm going to do $30,000 worth of work with him.
Verbiage and confidence and teaching how to communicate. That's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
I'm starting on just their attitude first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That is a multi-level question.
Yeah. I mean, we could go, like I said, I could do a lecture for 2 days on just associates and understanding them and how to train and break through those egos.
All right. So let's keep going with your chronology here. I like that. I agree with you, Craig. So 6 practices, that was painful. And you said, holy cow, now I'm disjointed. I'm not connected. I need some help. And so you hired a corporate, you know, I'm guessing you hired some help at a corporate level. And I saw your org chart
there.
Yeah.
Was an operations guy?
Oh, operations girl. I mean, I had an operations lady, and you met Tina. Tina came in after that first operations lady, but I had a chief of operations.
Okay. So COO.
What was her background? Was she dental background or just corporate background?
She was more on a corporate and educational background.
But not in dentistry or no?
No.
Oh, that's so cool.
I like that.
And then I felt like I needed someone in dentistry, so I actually let go of her, and we actually brought Tina in.
Okay. And Tina's background is what?
Tina, she just worked in my company as an office manager. And
so she was just a sharp person you internally promoted. Yeah. Did she have any additional training that you took her through, or she was just shrewd and took on?
I mean, all the training came from me.
Got it.
So she's are you still acting CEO?
I am.
Okay.
And Tina's still acting COO?
Yeah.
So that's when you kind of rocket shipped from 6 to, I want to hear the cadence of how like you grew almost.
Okay.
What I'm getting
So at 6 is when you that's when the struggles start when it comes to getting money.
Yes.
It's right at that $5 million mark.
Yep. Right.
So now you're struggling to even get money for your next practice.
Sorry, $5 million. You're saying you're aggregate.
Personally guaranteeing. So Craig, there's a thing in banking, and they'll tell you this, that for dentists, that like literally with all you have and you're growing, you kind of hit these artificial ceilings with them and Richard, you'll be able to explain it better, but it seems to be about $5 million of lending, no matter how well you're doing on a personal aspect.
Yeah.
There's thresholds for the banking industry.
And Richard, you'll describe it way better than I will on that, because you've been there, done that, conquered it, kind of thing. So maybe you could explain that to Craig better than I just did.
So when it comes to banking, especially in dental, or I think it's not even dental, I think it's just small business.
Mm-hmm.
You get a $5 million ceiling before the banks are saying no, because they're regulated by the government. And they're saying, at 5 million, that's where we can lend without all these other, stipulations of what you're going to need. Just recently, they started loosening it up, and some guys are letting you get out of that. But 5 million is usually everyone's ceiling. That's when they're starting to look for your systems, making sure you have the corporate entities in there. And so most people don't really get past that 5 practice level.
And is that regardless of like a net worth too? Like, or is it?
Yeah, if you have it in cash, they'll lend you off your cash.
No, of course.
Yeah,
right.
of course. When you don't need money, they always give it to you.
Yeah.
My buddy just cashed out for like 27 million. He's getting loans, like $3-4 million loans at 1%. He's like, he just told me, he's like, I went to lunch and he's like, you know how they say the rich get richer? He's like, I'm rich now and I can see exactly why.
That's like arbitrage, right?
That makes sense. I mean, when I first went out and I'm trying to get my next $1 million, right? I went to like literally, I think it was either 8 or 9 banks, and all of them were no.
So wait, what's your debt load at that point? I'm presuming, I'm sorry?
5 million.
Oh, so you had $5 million outstanding debt and 6 practices, right? And what's the value of the enterprise at that point? Like gross production of the entire enterprise at that point?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 8-9 million.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so you can see why they're a little reticent to let you borrow money.
Yeah, they just won't. And it's hard because, you're the clinician and they look at you
get hit by a truck.
Say, how the hell are you going to work at more than 5 practices?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to go through all those hurdles and then you have to find someone who's going to give you money. And back when I did it, it was just almost impossible. And when I did it, I started searching for banks. I got like 9 no's, every banking institution out there. And then I find this little tiny bank in the middle of Texas. So I fly out to Texas, I give them my spiel, and these guys said they would take it. And so that's like kind of the history. I went with that bank and I did a couple of loans with them. And then I just used that instant as my like jump start to no one's going to say no to me if I keep asking.
Wow.
Yeah. I got rejected a bunch of times too. Funny.
And
enough.
your pitch though is pretty, I remember you talking about that in your course, was like, look, this is going to work and you're going to miss out if you don't take, this is an opportunity of your lifetime kind of thing. You said this to the bankers, and it's kind of like, whoa, all right.
Roy
awesome.
Kroc did the same thing with McDonald's. He's like, I'm going to have McDonald's on every corner of the entire state of Missouri or whatever. That's awesome.
All right. So keep on. So you found a way around some of the banking. And is that when, okay, so again, I'm going to go to the cadence of you kind of opening practice. You went from 6.
Did you do Denovos or acquisitions with that first loan from the Texas bank? What was the first couple practices you did?
I didn't do many more Denovos after 6 practices. I did mostly acquisitions because in my area, to do a Denovo is like almost death.
Yeah.
So for us, it just made more sense to buy get an acquisition.
And that's easier to lend on too, right? Because they're just cash flow. I mean, it's pretty simple. Yeah.
And they lend on it easy. So for me,
and the doctor stayed there, that you would take over practice and the doctor would oftentimes want to stay or not necessarily?
Back then, doctor staying wasn't like kosher. People wanted to just get the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started buying up because I always thought the banks and how they think. And the bankers are always thinking they usually will lend and then the bank says no. So my goal was I'm going to get them to lend as much as they can before they say no and I have to jump to the next bank and start this thing all over. So literally.
I love this.
You're funneling.
Talk about the quote, the burn the boats. Like you're just like, screw it, let's just keep going. And like, see, this
yeah, I mean, there's
good.
2 ways to be important. Either owe a lot of money or have a lot of money. So.
Owe a lot of money is better, trust me. But anyways, so I was just like, I'm going to try to do as many acquisitions as I can. And so literally that was my 5 years from 5 or 6 to 40 practices. Was just like 8 acquisitions a year, something like that, 7 acquisitions a year. And I just moved as hard and as fast as I could. I mean, it got to a point where we were closing sometimes 3 practices in a month.
Closing on them? Holy cow.
Yeah. And it became, it gets to a point where you are totally overwhelmed, but you just keep putting it in your head, you'll be fine. And
so were you, I mean, I would
Wait,
imagine you were getting pretty frenetic in that, because you had money. And then anything that looked had a pulse, you'd be like, I'll buy you, I'll buy you, I'll buy you. Or were you somewhat selective, or you're shaking your head like you were just buying it? Like, I'll buy it.
You can't be selective because you have a time window with this bank.
Wow.
Are you still working with the bank?
None of those banks. Those banks are done.
So how much did you borrow from that bank in total?
That next bank, probably around 5-6 million.
Okay.
So you got another aliquot of kind of, okay, love it.
And then sorry, I just don't know any background. Are you a house of brands or a branded house? Meaning,
We're a house of brands.
Got it.
Yeah, okay.
So as we started acquiring, I just keep it its own. I just said, hey, let's just do this. Find dentists, let's put them in there. And, for the first few years, or first year or two, I could still teach these dentists. I put them all in one room. Every month we got together. I told them what I'm trying to do, and it was okay. And my next pain point became associates leaving without notice.
Yeah.
And I never thought that was even something that anyone would do, like, personally, but now I just started to see it's almost like all the evils of owning a dental company started to come out. People who blast you who don't even know you, lawsuits from people who are just trying to make money because they know you have it, associates who leave with literally 1 hour's notice. I mean, you start to see all of these things start to come up into fruition, and now you have a whole new set of problems.
And when did you start to see those evils, the blasting you, of not knowing you? At what size did you see that really start to raise its head?
Probably right before the 15 practice level.
And what do you attribute that to? What do you think that's from?
They never see you. They don't know who's hiring them. They don't know, it's hard for them to get the vision of the owner all the way down to that last person. You try your best to tell them what your vision is and what you do. But in the end of the day, everybody, they have to do what is best for them, at least what they think at that time. And so much of the time, it's very selfish, and they don't think about everyone else that it affects. And, office managers they're not trained classically, I guess. They're usually dental assistants that they become office managers. So you start filtering through office manager resumes, and you start to realize, God, most of these people don't even know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, you don't have to be supremely qualified to manage 4 people, and that's what the average office manager manages 4.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even be able to manage Radio Shack if you had that experience. Is Radio Shack still around, by the way?
No.
Oh, sorry. Well, you know what I mean. You definitely would be able to manage Chick-fil-A.
What he meant to say was manage Blockbusters. Are Blockbusters still around?
Exactly. Or manage my MySpace page. Yeah. This is awesome, by the way. I'm loving this. So sorry, keep going.
So as you keep going, about the 15 practice level, that's when you start to see all of the evils in dentistry. And so I wouldn't even say it's dentistry. You see all the evils in business, right?
Yeah. Humanity, I suppose,
I was doing acquisitions where I have doctors who literally, called all the patients the moment that you signed the papers to get all their patients to go to their other practice. I've had doctors recruiting in my town because they knew there was nothing I can do about it. I had a doctor open up literally 3 steps away from the practice that she was working for 2 years.
Oh, you didn't have a restrictive covenant in place?
There's no such thing as that in California.
Wow.
So wait, you can have you can have a non-solicitation. Well, are you saying
you can have a non-solicitation, but you will never get a patient to ever say that they were.
Yeah, there's no enforcement.
So when you say there's nothing like that in California, are you saying that larger restrictive covenants are contested, or all of them? Because I know like 10 miles and whatever. I bet
You can, like if you're selling a practice, yes, but if you're an associate, you can never stop someone from making a living.
Yeah,
So if that associate goes three
the
steps
right to work
away,
state.
there's nothing you
Clause.
can do.
Yep. Okay.
so. How did you? So at that point, you're getting your ass kicked, 2.0 ass kicking, and now the world is hating you, and you're just trying to be a good guy. What are you thinking there? Do you have a dilemma of like, fuck it, I'm going back?
Let's keep going.
Or I mean,
No,
really? And
want
was ass kicking 2.0 worse than ass kicking 1.0?
I would say this. In dentistry, I realized that everything is solved by production.
Yeah, of course. Sales solve everything. That's a business antic.
So in my mind, I'm just like, everything that's bad that happens to me is the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So I just.
But does it change you? Does it like, fuck it, all these people are trying to hurt me? I mean, are you?
Of course, I mean, it affects anyone, but you just have to decide how it's going to affect you. Does it stop you from being who you want to be? Does it make you, stronger? For me, I just said to myself, you know what? I know that God's going to give me what I can take, and then let's see how far I can still take this.
I love it, man. I love it. Where were you like 4 months ago, bro? That's awesome. So now was that harder on your heart and soul than the first time around? Like, what was the biggest knockdown so far? Was that the biggest one or not there?
I wouldn't say it's really a big knockdown. It's just almost accumulation. Every day there's something new. And, I always look at it. I just smile about everything that happens. I have a dental assistant, how many racial EDD claims do I get because they say I fired them because of race? Well, shit, I ain't white. So how is it a racial claim, But yet I'll get them on the regular.
Yeah, well, I know that the Department of Labor, it's just the way it works right now. It's you can make any claim you really want, unfortunately.
Yeah, you always lose a claim. So
yeah.
That's also a problem. You don't think people are going to go so far as to try to hurt you, even though they've never met you, but it's just the truth, and it's the cost of doing business. So how did I get past it? I guess I read more, try to figure out what other guys are doing, other industries, and realize it happens to everyone. But how do you win at it? Well, there's no winning at actually stopping it. You just have to keep growing your business.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I was floored to find out that you had no private equity involvement and you've resisted it, because obviously I'm sure they're beating down your door and have been. They promised, tons of over-promising and promising the moon, I should say. So lesser men would have, at these pain points, you'd have been like, oh, screw it. You know what? I'm just going to sell, right? Like, that's it. It's worth, it's worth a tremendous amount. I can retire. I can be done. I'm just going to sell. But you've resisted and resisted, even in the presence of these pain points. So I want to. Why have you done that? Why have you done that? Why have you resisted probably some crazy banana offers?
Why have I resisted? For me, in my mind, I just feel like I just can't lose. I mean, I won't lose because someone's telling me I have to get out. Mm-hmm. If I have to get out, it's because I have another calling. And
Pete, did you not see the 9-foot fucking lion behind his head, bro? Because he's a goddamn lion, and lions don't retreat, bro.
The king of the jungle, walking my swagger.
I mean, not to say, hey, next year, I don't know what I'm going to do, or the year after. But I can tell you, my joy is the education of dentists. Mm-hmm. My joy is when I take somebody who's very thankful for me teaching them, and I can see them become almost a different person. That's my joy.
And so I want to pause on that. Isn't that what? So you started a podcast and you have seminars and such. Is that what you're going to be kind of doubling down on? Because that is your joy. Now you're in the fulfillment stage of your life, and it sounds like that is the fulfillment. Is that what the podcast and your seminars are going to be focused on going forward?
It's exactly that. Because if someone comes to me and says, someone who's invested in their practice, let's say they're only doing $300,000-$400,000 out of their practice. Mm-hmm. I can make them do $1 million, or they do $1 million, I can make them do $2 million. Mm-hmm. They're going to love me for that.
Yeah.
Right? And I know I can do that like that. Like, for me to go into a practice, it takes me minutes to see what the problem is, and I can put the solution in really quickly.
Wow.
That, to me, is a joy. the associates, because they're so difficult to understand because they don't have any skin in the game, it's harder to break through to those guys.
So why don't you flip it and try to get skin in the game for them?
I have, but even, a lot of people talk about partnerships and this and that. Don't get that fooled too, because that proposes so many more issues. Because now they think they have better systems than you, and now they want to do other things, and they don't believe in this, and then you have to answer to both of them. There's
a lot of cooks in the kitchen philosophy, essentially, right?
For me, my model is what worked, and that's why I kept it like that. I have some minor partnerships and 1 or 2 practices, but for me, this is what works for me.
And how are those minor partnerships working in those practices?
I'd say one is good, the other is not that good.
Yeah, okay.
And if you're one of those 2 people listening, you don't know which one you are, so that's awesome.
right.
Hopefully nobody listens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my real joy now is honestly to preach, or at least teach a new dentist who says, hey, I'm coming out of school. I want to have 2 to 3 practices. I want to talk them out of it. I want to tell them, hey, learn to be a phenomenal producer.
Yep.
Learn to really kill it in your own practice, because that's where the money is made. The money is made when you are a phenomenal dentist. If you think that you're going to come out, and I remember in my seminar, I had a student. I was actually giving Peter a bunch of shit. It was funny, but he was a student, hasn't even graduated yet, and he's talking about 10 practices. And I said, you can't even make one work. How you get to 10, dude? You're not even that person that I'm talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I remember you having that conversation with him, and I'm being like, yeah, it's like, the I just want to sprint. I just want to get out and sprint. Forget walking and crawling. I just want to sprint.
Yeah.
Sprint the rest of my life.
Not to say no one can do it, but I just know what it takes, and I don't know if it's worth it for them, because if they're always going to think about money, then do what I'm doing, because I have to dump every dollar in, because there's more and more infrastructure you need to build as you get bigger and bigger, and dollars don't keep flowing. Now I'm finishing up all my infrastructure of call center, corporate offices, C-suite guys, regional managers. Don't think there's extra money now. It's the same thing.
That's a great point that actually you've elicited. So a lot of times people think it's just, they think it's linear. Well, if 1 practice equals 1 million, then 2 must equal 2 million. And that might take almost double, right? Like, okay, so I want 9, please.
Yeah.
9 practices, please.
Exactly.
And I love it. I love how you're saying that, because that unfortunately is the narrative, and you hear that a lot. Like I want to be a multiple practice owner. Well, why?
Well, it's also what we're being sold in the industry too. Everybody is banging on the drum, like, oh, you got to get your way to 12 practices and 15 practices.
Well, that's what I mean. And who's banging that drum? It's all the guys who have never built it.
They've never done one.
They've never done it. And then, so they say, hey, I have the secret. I'm holding this seminar. I'm going to show you how to build this.
Isn't it funny that those guys have never done it? I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to name names. I'm thinking about all of them. I'm like, one has like a minority partnership in 1 practice. Like, yeah, I'm an owner. Yeah, I'm like, you and another dentist, you're doing $2 million a year and 3 days a week. But that's not like what Evangelista's done, Yeah.
So that's been my pain point. And then watching other people who have the consulting or practice management, and they're going to tell you how to let us manage your conglomerate, but I've never been able to build it myself.
Right. And that goes to PE as well. Like, let our infrastructure and let our systems come in and fix it. Like, you don't, a lot of these companies across different industries, PE does not necessarily make a business better. It actually ruins a lot of business.
Well, you're saying, there's a myth that consolidation will make things more profitable. And in actuality, they find that it actually contracts profit somewhat. And I love that you kind of took it and you're doing your own. You said, I just do my own call center. And I love that you kind of like care enough. You put them literally on like the 40th floor, looking at the ocean, like this beautiful building. Like, you're just a cool dude, and like your culture is important to you. It's not just like, I'm gonna stick you in a basement because the basement was cheaper, and I'll squeeze more profit out of you, right? Like, it's not. That's what I was saying earlier. It's not about the money for him. It's really the scorecard and like your legacy that you're trying to leave, because it's pretty legendary at this point. Like I travel in that, I keep my ears peeled for remarkable dentists, and when I heard that, like I literally, like, you can ask Jake. I came to attention real quick. I was like, what? There's no way. So you just don't hear it. So you're kind of a legend in dentistry, you know? So it's pretty cool that you've resisted private equity. You've done things just because you wanted to, and you burnt the boats all the way along, and you invested in yourself and your business and stuff. And I just think it's admirable. So someone who's got that big of balls, my hat goes out to you, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you have to do if really you want to build it. So that's the reason that I wanted to be out there in front of people, is just say, look, you really want to do this. Let me show you what it takes to do this. And if this is your thing, then do it.
Do you think when you're 80, you'll have any regrets?
I was just about to ask that. I wasn't going to go 80. I want to say right now, if you could do all the way back all over again, what would you have done differently?
The only regret you can do is say, hey, I didn't buy it. I shouldn't have bought this office.
Mm-hmm. So
Right.
granular regrets, but not like, oh, I shouldn't have played it safe. I mean, I should have played it safe. You know, like you never hear someone saying like, I wish I had played it more safe in my life, right? Like you just,
I mean,
went
in
for
my
it.
head, what I always do is like, I always have to tell myself, stop being weak, push harder.
Wow.
Stop being weak, push harder.
Because
Wow.
if I get a negative thought in my mind, like you need to like just chunk it all, fuck everybody, then you've already lost. So every
Yeah.
time it kind of seeps in my head, I just have to say, stop being weak, keep pushing.
Wow.
You can't get any money, you'll find the money. You can't do any more deals because everyone said no. I'm already making those deals and I'll figure out the money later. I just don't know. It's just the way that I've always worked.
Yeah, well, you have good conversations with yourself as well. I was very, very fortunate to drive home and spend an hour with someone very, very legendary who will remain nameless, but I'm a friend of his, and he was in my car we were in my car for about an hour, and the things he was telling me, man, because I was complaining to him, and he's just like, man, you need to man up. Like, you know, he was actually saying, he's like, look, I don't believe that a person becomes a man till they're 50, and you need pain. You need pain. Pain is what shapes you. Pain is what, you know, positions you, but don't overindulge in your pain. So that concept of the negative thought, like some people stub their toe and retreat.
Woe is me, right?
Yeah, woe is me. And that's their new identities carved out of suffering. And if you take any one of the myriad of things you've just talked about, eat just one of them, one department of labor claim may have just sent certain people retreating, like, I'm not cut out for this, you know, I'm not appreciated, I'm not that. And they create a new identity around that. So kudos to you, because you had to re-engineer your identity over and over. You know, you have to become anew. Each challenge has to define you. It could define you in a negative sense. You're like, screw it, I'm leaving, or define you in the positive sense. So I recognize having that so many identities that you've had to carve out. It's really cool, man.
Thanks. I mean, I just did what I needed to do, I guess, you know. Yeah, it always changes and evolves over time. And you know, we always talk about, like, doesn't matter what your business or what worked today, it's not what's going to work tomorrow. And so you're constantly evolving over time. I'm evolving as a person, I'm evolving mentally, because you better be strong mentally with all this stuff that's in your head almost on a daily basis. You have to learn to put things away. And at the end of the day, you know, I remember I was listening to one of those Tony Robbins podcast or things where he said, every problem he has, you just have to say, a worthy adversary.
Yeah. Oh, he says that. He's be grateful for it.
And for me, that's really what it is. You just have to smile and laugh at it. You know, when I go to court, I'm almost joking, because I'm just like, you're kidding me with this. And me and the judge will be laughing because we know we're both, he knows I'm screwed, I know I'm screwed, but we're laughing at the actual claim. I mean, it's funny.
No, geez.
But the legal system does grate on you when you talk about, you know, listen, I think when we went to school, and I went to school in 1998, we were really concerned about malpractice. And there's been a lot of reform in malpractice. When there's frivolous claims, you know, there's lawyers that are not as apt to take it because contingency can be costly. But when you're talking about an employment claim, the legal fees are paid by the
employer.
By the employer.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to lose. So why not just say, like, oh, you know, Dr. Evangelista walked by and you know, patted me on the head and I'm harassed. You know, what, you could say whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And until the time that you go to court, all the calls, all the stuff, that is all covered by, you know, even if you decide to settle, like, no, Dr. Evangelista didn't pat you on the head. You know, he was never even met you. By the time you get to that point, there's hundreds of hours that could have been done in legal fees. And that's just,
I mean, I was just in court like a month ago, and me and the judge are sitting there and laughing at the claim. I mean, he's laughing, and I said, "This is bullshit," and he said, "This is the problem in our legal system."
Yep. It's true.
What do you do?
Yeah, it's true. Even if it's a total farce. Like I had a conversation with a lawyer that there was, you know, and I was talking with this lawyer and I said, this is complete farce. Like I'm sure the other attorney, if you show him these documents, will throw this out. She's a good lawyer, you said. She's like, no, well, she's actually a good lawyer, but she might pursue it. I'm like, but it's totally fictitious.
Yeah.
You know, we've got it doesn't matter. That's the way the system works.
I mean, the only way to really get around that is just pay them off. Like
But then that sets a precedent too. So, you know, I mean, there's guys out there and I have some, you know, the influential people would not do that because then it's just like, come get more.
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
but I'm not in politics. At the end of the day, like my attorney always tells me, look, make a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then you know, there's principles as well. Principles as well.
Like I said, you have to manage principles and money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight $100,000 case to win because I win nothing, or if I can pay $10,000 to get out of it.
Yeah, but then, you know, then the next person will just say, oh, Dr. Evangelista doesn't like me because I'm Chinese or I'm Jewish or I'm white.
See, this is the thing, is the next person will be there no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stay respectful, Doc. I'm going to stay respectful of your time. I know you're kind of in the middle of your day, but I do want to talk about the things that you're working on going forward. So obviously I alluded to the fact that you're going to be launching a podcast. So what, do you have the name of it yet?
Yeah, it's Dentistry and DSOs Exposed.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
With
Sounds
that,
like expert. I like it.
We could talk that. We should have a second round. Let us be the guest. Let us be your first guest. We would love to talk about it.
That'd be awesome.
We'll just go down that rabbit hole on your first one. It'll blow it out. All right. So that, and then you also, your company, obviously you're in the business of your own practices, but you also offer services, like meaning for centralized services, right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? What's that called?
So we're Dental Force, and what we're going to do now is, because I know all of the hardships that are in any dental practice, because now I've seen hundreds of them. I know that, you know, some centralized services do help a lot of practices, especially the practices that have a hard time with management.
Yep.
So I decided, because I know there's a lot of guys who offer consulting. I know a lot of guys who offer, you know, call center services, but I don't know if they really know the real issues of what happens in an office and how to get over those problems. So our goal was to create a company in which we can take care of that, because I know the problems that these dentists have. So we launched, well, basically my seminar series. Our next seminar is actually February 7th through 9th, the same seminar that you went to.
Nice. What's the website for that, for just the seminar series?
It's just dentalforce.com.
Dentalforce.com. Okay. So it's going to have the services plus seminars all on that domain. Okay, good. Dentalforce.com.
We're building our website right now, so it's going to have everything listed out.
Nice.
But I really want to get out there from a consulting and total management of a dental practice, because I see like the real need in that. Like the real need right now is not really a bunch of practices. The real need is the single practice that struggles, who may had bad luck in getting an office manager who's holding them for hostage, or the one dentist who doesn't know how to produce because he has to get over his own fears. Yeah,
that's great. And it's just a noble cause, because it's going to save the profession entirely.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, that's the savior to the profession.
That's my goal. The whole building the DSO, it's great, and I can do a lot of great things from it. But that's not life changing for people. I want to live.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So we said that.
And by the way, that's kind of like just looping it into like Pete and I, you know, that's why we're doing what we're doing. We think that we're the ones that can help change dentistry. And if we can change one doctor or one, I mean, look at how many people rely upon the doctor, all the people that work there and all the patients they serve. So that's awesome. That's a great, noble goal.
I do want to, and the families of the employees. And like, so you're, you know, it doesn't fall on us, you know, from an ownership standpoint, how many people depend on you.
Oh, I know. And that's a lot of things that associates don't understand. Associates don't understand that whole office depends on their production. You know?
Yeah.
the whole real goal was just to create an avenue in which everybody can benefit from this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to touch back because I know we jumped very quickly off that whole employment thing, and I just want to give a pearl of advice.
Hey, I was rapping there, by the
No,
way.
I know.
Now you're looping it back in.
No, I know. No, I'm not moving back in. I don't want people feeling doom and gloom. There's one thing that you need to just check, and you have to make sure that you have EPLI insurance, employment practices liability coverage. It's crazy that that is usually that inexpensive. Like it's nuts. Like I talked to a buddy of mine. Actually, it was you, Peter. I was like, make sure you have it. And Pete's broker is like, oh, you want it? I'll turn that feature on for you. I was like, how much does it cost? He's like, actually, it comes with the policy you have. We just didn't
click the box. I'm like,
are you freaking kidding me?
What?
I can tell you about that insurance, and that insurance is great. And I would get it really early if I'm like starting to build a company. But when you get to a certain size, that insurance is useless.
Right, but I mean,
for the majority of listeners and people, though, you're saying
the majority of listeners who are building a smaller company, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but smaller to you is probably like
like 20 million.
$1,000 here and there. It doesn't do nothing for me.
Right.
And after a certain level and a certain number of claims on a company, you don't even qualify for that insurance anymore. So
okay.
I've already looked into that many times over.
Well, but just for the sake of most people, you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, definitely do it. I mean, it'll save you, $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah.
Well, man, I've been waiting to get you back, spend some more time with you, even virtually, post your conference, and I'm glad you came on the podcast. And Craig, I knew you would you'd be wide open listening to it.
Yeah, it was just really
this is refreshing.
I love this one. Thank you.
But definitely consider. I'm going to invite myself again to your inaugural podcast. Or one of, maybe not the inaugural one, but we're going to invite ourselves to come on yours because I think it would be fun to go down that rabbit hole of the DSO stuff. And man, best of luck to you in that journey. And like I said, it's I've talked about giving you some little tips in the podcasting and love to.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been meaning to call you.
Yeah, please leverage what little knowledge I have on it.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun when people are feeling the same thing that I do, and we're the dentists who are actually in the trenches and not, some management company that's going to try to tell us what to do.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Be well. Good to spend time with you. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.